Hey, Bud Dragons, I'm really glad you're here with me today. I'm doing a book review for The Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. This is the first book in the Merlin trilogy, which is her Arthurian retelling. And I did a buddy read on this book with Alyssa over Into the Heart Wild. We had some really great discussions about the book. I'll just direct you to her channel to hear her thoughts on the book, but these are going to be my thoughts. Before I get into this, I want to take you down the rabbit hole a little bit to my childhood. The Crystal Cave and the Hollow Hills and the Last Enchantment. I think I might have read The Wicked Day as well, but I don't remember. But I did read the full trilogy when I was a kid. I would go over to my grandmother's house often, and when I would go over, I would sometimes borrow books from her, and this series was on her shelf. And I remember it being the catalyst for me finding out about the Arthurian legend for the first time, and I was just so enamored with this series. And that experience impacted my reread of the book because I went into it expecting it to be this great thing and just this magnificent work of Arthurian fiction. And because I had loved it as a kid, I figured, oh, yeah, it'll be the exact same thing. Not really, guys. I'm very sad to say that because I have a lot of nostalgia around this book, right? But I felt like I was reading a completely different book. And granted, I didn't remember that much about it, but I remembered the enjoyment I got out of it. So coming to it again with fresh eyes, I had a really rough time being motivated to continue reading the book. And I'm going to give you some reasons why. Now, if you don't know anything about this book, the series is called the Merlin Trilogy for a reason. It is written from the first-person perspective of Merlin as he's growing up. And not only is it first-person perspective, but it's first-person limited. So if you want to know something other than Merlin has actually physically seen with his eyes, you ain't getting it. No, you're not going to get any of that information that you want to know, because he's only telling you what he has actually seen. And so if there is a mystic rite going on behind the scenes that Merlin has not been made privy to yet, we are never going to know anything about it other than him mentioning that he's heard that it's going on. Other than that, we're not going to find out anything about what it is. You won't get any information on that. So that's a real downside of first person limited, I feel like, because I want to know everything that is happening behind the scenes. I want to know everything that's happening surrounding the main character. So if there's a battle going on, I want all the gory details of the battle. Well, not all of them, but a reasonable amount. Come on, you gotta give me blood and gore, guys. And you're just not gonna get that in this story. So, one of the downsides, definitely, I don't mind first person, but this particular use of it just did not work for me. Another thing that really didn't work for me was the character development. There really wasn't much of any character development. Merlin ended up feeling very one-dimensional to me. I didn't really feel like I cared about Merlin at all or what was happening. There were things that I wanted to know that I didn't find out about Merlin that I think would have been nice to know. And the way he's written is just very surface level because, he's just telling you, oh, this happened, oh yeah, this person died. You don't get any emotions, any depth of feeling with Merlin. He's just a very stoic personality. Which, is fine, you can have those types, but even the most stoic personality has personality and emotions and feels things when people close to them die and things like that. So Merlin didn't really work for me. The female characters were not only written very stereotypical, but they were just poorly written, I felt. With the exception of Merlin's mother, I didn't really feel connected to any of the characters at all. And so, yeah, that was a real disappointment for me. A lot of times the book felt like reading a history book. And I know this is technically supposed to be historical fantasy, so there's an element of that. But it felt like reading a history book in the fact that every time there was a major battle, it would just be this happened, this happened, this happened. You know, feel like I'm just reading a collection of events in a history book or in an encyclopedia or something like that. It's like reading genealogies that seem to go on forever and ever. And part of the action is the human interaction and the conversations that go on that they don't know certain ears are privy to. So, you know, maybe conversations happening during the battle that Merlin is overhearing that he just never tells us about. And so none of that is really there. And the last one I'll talk about here is the fact that the ending just didn't work for me. I went throughout the whole of this book expecting certain things to happen, expecting certain characters to be in the story, and one character in particular that I expected to see in the story did not even get mentioned until the end of the book. And I just ended up feeling very lackluster about the whole experience. So, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I read this as a kid, absolutely loved it, and now I'm reading it as an adult, and I just really didn't care for the experience. And the only two things I can attribute to that are my tastes have changed in reading, and my experience as a reader, as I've grown and changed, has changed the way that I read and review books. And I think those two do kind of go hand in hand. But I do think age and experience weighs the most in this situation, because as a young man of teenage years, I had not read as thoroughly or as broadly as I have now as a man approaching 49, close to being 50. I've read so many more books, and I think that I've gained a deeper appreciation for nuances in writing and language and cultures and things that have really made me extremely picky when I'm reading books now versus when I read them as a teen. And I'm sure having become an author myself has impacted that as well. So there's various different factors that play into this, but the core of it is a huge difference between young Chaz and old Chaz. So I really wanted to like this book as much as I used to, but unfortunately that wasn't really the case, and I'm really on the fence if I even want to continue reading at this point, because I don't think it's going to have the impact on me that it did when I was a kid, and I'm afraid of going into the second book and wasting my time because it's just more of the same. So let me know what you think about this video, not only about some of the thoughts I shared about age and experience in general, but specifically this book. I don't know if you are out there watching this video and you read this book and you had different thoughts on it that you'd like to share. I would love to talk with you in the comments about that. And I hope this book rant has been valuable to you. And until next time, guys, make sure you're reading more books, and I will talk to you very soon. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my patrons. I really appreciate all you do to support my channel.